It's the 25th day of September in the year 2019, and let me take this opportunity to specially welcome all of our listeners in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis across the region and those joining us from the diaspora on the World Wide Web. It's such a pleasure to have you on another edition of On the Mark. Of course, it's 2 hours of straight talk here on the Eastern Caribbean Spa House, Vaughan Radio 860 on your AM dial, www.vaughanradio.com. And of course, it's 2 hours straight, no interruption from any commercials. And of course, I want to first of all apologize for the regular host, the absence of the regular host, the Honorable Mark Brantley, who is unavoidably absent. He's overseas on government business. I want to say good night to you, Honorable Mark Brantley, if you're listening. And of course, we want to say good evening once again to all who are in tune to the Eastern Caribbean Spa House on this wonderful Wednesday evening as we bring to you another edition of On the Mark. Of course, a little later on, you might get the opportunity to call in. And of course, our numbers are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. And I also want to remind you as well that the On the Mark program is rebroadcast on a Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock. So if you miss tonight, make sure you listen tomorrow. If you listen tonight, make sure you listen again tomorrow, because every edition of the On the Mark program is always exciting. We bring you great information. And of course, I know a lot of persons love the program so much that they listen to it twice, on a Wednesday and then again on a Thursday. Those of you who are tuned in, make sure you tune in again tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Those who are not tuned in, make sure you get close to your radio tomorrow at 1 o'clock and you tune in. So good evening once again, and it's a pleasure. I am Eric Evelyn, and I will be your host for tonight in the absence of our regular host, the Honorable Mark Brantley. And of course, at the top of the show, we normally do a little bit of housekeeping matters. And I just want to say, happy birthday to anyone who might be celebrating a birthday today. Hope that you've had a wonderful day so far. I hope your day has been extra special. If you're celebrating a wedding anniversary as well, we want to say happy anniversary to you. Hope that your day has been splendid, and we want to wish you many more years of wedding bliss. I want to send some belated birthday greetings to my brother up there in New York, Dwight Michael Liebert, Mikey. We all know him as Mikey. Mikey celebrated his birthday yesterday. And my brother, I want to say belated birthday greetings to you. I hope you had a fantastic day yesterday and continue to enjoy the rest of the week. I also want to say belated birthday greetings to my very good friend up there in Rollins Village, Florida Freeman. We all know her as Flo. Good night to you, Flo. I know you had a wonderful day yesterday. I saw you and you were looking gorgeous yesterday. I just loved your outfit and your accessories, Flo. You were looking fantastic yesterday. And I want to say belated birthday greetings to you. Hope you had a wonderful day yesterday. Anyone who celebrated yesterday, anyone who is celebrating this week, if you're celebrating today, I want to wish you a happy birthday, happy anniversary, and continue to make the best of life and do whatever you can do, and do it in style. I know Flo was celebrating in style yesterday. So good evening once to you, and belated birthday greetings once again to Mikey up there in New York, and to Flo up there in Rollins. And anyone who is celebrating today, happy birthday, and of course, happy anniversary as well. I want to say good night to the persons who are a little bit under the weather tonight. Those who are at the hospital, the Alexandra Hospital, whether you are there, whether you're at home, whether you're not feeling well, whether you're at the Flamboyant Nursing Home and you're not doing too well. If you're a little bit under the weather, I want to say good evening to you, and trust God will continue to have grace and mercy on you, and that you will get better very, very soon. Actually, I was at the hospital this afternoon doing my regular visits, and I saw quite a number of persons there. I want to say good night to them. Of course, we want to say good night to the nurses as well, and the entire staff there at the Alexandra Hospital who continue to do a very good job in taking care of our patients, taking very good care of our patients. I want to especially say good night to Steve Flamingo Reed and Vincent Maynard and Stolly Richardson there in the surgical ward. Also want to say good night to Nimpy, who is also there in that ward, and Romney. Good night to you guys. I hope you're going to be feeling much better, and I know they're taking very good care of you. Also want to say good night to Selda and Idita there in the medical ward, in the female medical ward as well. Continue to recover well, and we wish you all the very best from here at the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, and from here at the studios of the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, and from On The Mark. I also want to say good night and extend some condolences to persons who may have lost loved ones recently. I want to especially say good night to my very good friend, Mr. Bertram Roach, up there in Hamilton. I went to see Mr. Roach yesterday. He's holding up pretty well, but I know he's taking it pretty hard as well. He has lost his wife, Sylvia. And Mr. Roach, to you and your family, I say deepest condolences to you. I know that you and your wife were very, very close together for 67 years. It's a very, very long time. I know you're going to miss her dearly, but I just want you to continue to hold on, keep the faith, and our prayers are with you and your family. I also want to say good night and condolences to my good friend as well, Avenel Warner, over there in Newcastle. Avenel, good night to you. I haven't seen you yet. I haven't been able to call you yet. I'm going to touch base with you sometime soon. But we know we lost our very good friend, Elroy Bugger Warner, last evening, unfortunately. And so I want to say good night to you, Avenel, and the rest of the family. Keep the faith. May God sustain you in this very, very difficult time. Bugger, of course, was my good friend as well. I worked with him in the Department of Agriculture for some time. And of course, I think most people know as well that Bugger was an ardent supporter of the Concerned Citizens Movement. And so I want to say good night to you, Avenel, and we want to extend greetings to you from the Concerned Citizens Movement Party, from the leader, the Honorable Mark Brantley, and all of us at the Concerned Citizens Movement, from your area representative, the Honorable Alexis Jefferson, from all of us in the party. And of course, I also will take the liberty to say condolences on behalf of the department and the Ministry of Agriculture as well, because I still feel very much a part of that ministry, a part of that department, and I know that the Ministry and the Department of Agriculture would want me to extend the condolences to you as well, Avenel, on the loss of your dear husband, Mr. Elroy Bugger Warner. And so anyone else who may have lost loved ones, whether this week, last week, recently, we want to say best wishes to you from here, from all of us here at the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, and from On The Mark. And I just want to say a special good night as well to my good friend Hilly. Good night to you, Hilly. Hope you're doing okay. And greetings to you from all of us here at On The Mark as well. Just a few more housekeeping matters, because I'm very privileged. I have two guests with me tonight, and I'm very, very happy for that. But I just want to just touch on a few other things in terms of housekeeping just before we get to our guests. I want to say that the work at this prestigious Four Seasons Resort is going very well. Of course, we know that the owners are spending a large sum of money, over $40 million to refurbish the hotel. It's been long in coming, and I can tell you that when that resort is finished, we're going to be having one of the finest resorts in the region, if not in the world. And I want to say kudos to the owners for making that decision to spend this money on the Four Seasons Resort. I think they are on track to reopen on the 1st of October. Of course, they're going to be reopening in phases. And of course, I believe they're going to be welcoming their first guests on either the 2nd or the 4th of October. And for the run-up to the reopening of the hotel, we can also tell you that the management and staff, they are now involved in some training. The managers, they would have been involved in some training that would have started on the 9th of September. And I want to say that I was invited there to just have a little chit-chat with the managers. And I have to say that I'm very pleased, I'm very honored, and I'm very humbled that the management there at the Four Seasons Resort would have seen it fit to invite me. I don't know why, but they invited me, and I took the offer. Of all the persons in Nevis, I don't know why they selected me, but I was very, very humbled and privileged to go and interact with the managers. We had a wonderful session together. And then I was back there this past Monday, had a wonderful session with the line staff, and I'm going to be back there tomorrow morning for another session with the line staff. And I've been having a wonderful time with the folks, the good folks there at the Four Seasons Resort, as they get ready to welcome guests in October, and as they get ready to work and to be fully energized for the reopening of the almost brand new Four Seasons Resort. So, of course, when we hear $40 million being injected into a project on the island of Nevis, good things are definitely happening on the island of Nevis. So I want to say kudos once again to the management and staff of the Four Seasons Resort. Keep up the good works, and we are expecting great things from you when you reopen. I want also at this time to extend some congratulations to the folks who would have received awards for Independence. Of course, Independence was last Thursday, and so this is the first hosting of On the Mark since the Independence celebrations. And I really want to extend heartiest congratulations to those who would have received awards here on Nevis, and those who are Mr. Carl Claxton and Mr. Brian Buju Powell for business, Mrs. Gwyneth Maynard and Mrs. Josette Myers for education, Mr. Burnett Notsi Thompson for entertainment, Mr. Colin Tyrrell for community service and government, Mr. Laurie Lawrence in public service, Ms. Ermin Jeffers in healthcare, Mr. Elvis Maynard in electricity, and Mr. Franklin Daniel in fishing. I want to say congratulations, very well deserved. And I also want to extend some congratulations as well to some persons from Nevis who made it to the list for the national awards as well. And I want to say congratulations to Mr. Augustine Merchant, receiving an award in terms of a Companion of Medal of Honor for Agricultural Development, and for the Companion of Star of Merit, Mr. Lester Blackett for Sports, Mr. Antonio Abonati Liburd for Culture, very well deserved Abo. Our own here at the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Mr. Everett Webber Herbert for Broadcasting, Miss Erlene Maynard for Education, and Mrs. Alice Swanson for Education and Community Outreach. So once again, I want to heartily congratulate the persons who would have received awards here on Nevis at our celebrations at the ETW Park this past Thursday, and for these other persons who would have also been named in the national awards, which those announcements were made on National Heroes Day on the 16th of September. So congratulations to you. I also want to say as well that as the area representative for St. George Gingerland, I have done some visits to the schools in my constituency at the start of the school year. This is something I intended to do ever since last year. It did not materialize unfortunately, but I've decided at the start of every school year, I will make a visit to the schools in my constituency, go and attend their assembly, show some solidarity with the teachers and the students of those schools, give them some words of encouragement. And so I would have visited the Gingerland Secondary School on the 13th of September. And I want to thank the principal, Mrs. Lynette Williams, and her staff and the students for warmly welcoming me to the Gingerland Secondary School. Had a wonderful session with them there for their assembly on the 13th, Friday the 13th of September. And then this morning, I would have visited the Joyston Liburd Primary and the Gingerland Preschool. And so I want to say thanks as well to Principal Barbara Hendrickson of the Joyston Liburd Primary, you and your team and the students for having me, and of course to the principal of the preschool, Mrs. Pamela Elliott, and your team as well, the staff and the students, for the warm welcome and for having me again this morning at the Gingerland Preschool and the Joyston Liburd Primary. I did enjoy the visits with them, and of course we just want to continue to encourage the teachers, encourage the students, and just to remind them that they have the full support of the Ministry of Education and by extension the Nevis Island administration. So those visits went extremely well. I also want to say that next week Tuesday there will be a sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly. And of course, that will be at the Nevis Island Assembly chambers from 10 o'clock. Of course, we continue with our good governance agenda, and we continue to show the people of Nevis that we are serious about government. We're serious about governance. We did make a pledge that we will be meeting regularly in the Nevis Island Assembly. We have kept that promise. We have kept that pledge. And so we will be meeting next week, Tuesday, the 1st of October at 10 o'clock. In the forenoon. Of course, we know that the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse will be there to bring it to you live and live, and of course it will be streamed live as well. So just wanted to indicate that will be happening next week, Tuesday. Now, the other thing that I want to speak briefly about before I get to my guests, last week it was not last week, Friday. Time is slipping away so quickly. On the 13th of September, in the heart of Charlestown, in the D.R. Walwyn Plaza, we had the closing ceremony and the prize giving for Culturama 45, right? And I just want to say that during the prize giving ceremony, a total of $315,900 was paid out in cash prizes. And it goes as follows. I want you to listen very carefully. For the senior Calypso contest, we paid out $77,750. For the junior Calypso contest, $21,900. The junior and senior cultural street parade, $35,700. For the Mr. Cool contest, $22,000. For the Miss Culture swimwear, $22,000. For the Miss Culture Queen pageant, $44,000. For the Soca Monarch contest, $68,750. For the Mr. and Miss Talented Youth pageant, $20,000. For the Road March winner, $3,000. All right, for a grand total of $315,900. All right, I'm going to get back to the figures in just a bit because I want to speak just a little bit about the figures. And I also want to indicate, for those of you who are not present and those of you who are not following the live stream, that we also launched the Culturama 46 slogan contest. And I just want to remind the persons who will be taking part in the contest, because we already start receiving slogans. I have to tell you, we already, last year, when I launched it, I received slogans the same evening. And now that we have launched it early o'clock again, we have already been receiving slogans. And so, and I also have to say that I'm sporting my 2020 Culturama shirt. I'm sporting my 2020 Culturama shirt, right? And we are advertising Culturama early o'clock, July the 23rd to August the 4th, 2020. Because you know, when it comes to this administration and the Ministry of Culture, we mean business. All right? And so we have launched the slogan contest, and we want to remind you that the slogans should be short, no more than 8 words in length. It should be catchy. Rhyming would be a plus, and it should reflect the spirit of Nevis's cultural festival. Now, the slogans can be hand-delivered to the Culturama Secretariat, located in the Cotton Ginnery Mall, or can be emailed to slogan@culturamanevis.com. So please, if you're listening, take notes. You can email your slogans to slogan@culturamanevis.com. The closing date for the Culturama 46 slogan contest is Tuesday, December the 31st, 2019. So you must get your slogans in for 2020 in 2019. So after 2019 has passed, you don't have a chance. So start putting pen to paper, please. Start getting your ideas together as to what you want to portray in your slogan for 2020. 2020 is going to be a huge year. We just came out of a milestone year, Culturama 45. We're going into Culturama 46, but I have to tell you, 2020, the year 2020 will be another huge year for Culturama on the island of Nevis. And so start putting pen to paper, start getting your creative thoughts together to put your slogans together for Culturama 46. So, and the winner would receive 2 complimentary tickets to all Culturama 2020 events. And of course, last year, or not last year, but this Culturama past, I would have also thrown in something else from the ministry. That is a cash prize of $500. First time that would have gone in, and it's going back in again for next year. So the winner will receive not only the complimentary passes for all the Culturama shows, but $500 in cash. Listen again. The Culturama 46 slogan winner would be used to, well, the slogan will be used to promote Culturama 2020, which would be celebrated over the period July the 23rd to August the 4th, 2020. All right. So as I said, I want to get back a little bit to the monies that were spent for our prize giving ceremony, right? And we still have a lot of money to spend because we still have a lot of our vendors and so on to pay, right? But I just want to reiterate here that we spent $315,000, call it $316,000 paid out in prize money. And I am very, very happy because all of the prize monies for Culturama 45 were increased. Let me say that again. All of the prize monies for all of the events, ALL, for Culturama 45 were increased. And a lot of the money that you heard that were paid out at the prize giving are monies coming from the government coffers. Of course, we would have had some sponsorship, yes, but a good chunk of this $316,000 came out of the government coffers. And the reason why I am focusing on this, because I am happy as the Minister of Culture and as a minister in the Nevis Island Administration, the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration, that we are looking after our persons who are involved in culture, persons who are involved in the art forms, some of the artists. We are looking after the persons. We are investing in them. Of course, you would have heard some chatter on the run-up to Culturama, during Culturama, and after Culturama, that the government is spending too much money on Culturama. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Because we have to respect our cultural practitioners as well. Now, if you are telling the administration that we are spending too much money on Culturama, you are telling the cultural practitioners out there, the persons who are involved in the art form, all of the persons who are involved in culture, all of the persons who are involved in Culturama, that they are not good enough for money to be spent on. You are telling our persons who are involved in Culturama that they must go to the cultural complex, they must go to the cultural village, and they must perform in rundown conditions year after year. Well, that is not going to happen under this administration and under this Minister of Culture and under this Ministry of Culture. We are looking after everyone. And so persons in every facet of society, every field must be respected and must be looked after, including persons who are involved in culture. Because when you're saying we are spending too much money on Culturama, you're saying that you don't have any respect for our artists, our soca artists, our calypsonians, our queen contestants, the persons who are involved in fashion, the persons who are involved in the junior shows, the persons who are involved in the parades, and the persons who are involved in every aspect of the festival and every aspect of Culturama. They deserve respect as well. And we have to spend money on all of them. Of course, we have to spend money on everyone. And of course, there was a chatter as well that some of the schools were not finished because we were spending time in the cultural complex and the cultural village. Well, the cultural practitioners deserve respect too. and they deserve a good environment in which to practice their art form as well. So when you're saying that the government is spending too much money on culture and Culturama, then you're not saying that to us, but you're telling the persons involved in culture, you are worth nothing. That is what you're saying to the persons, the masqueraders, the calypsonians, the soca artists, the queen contestants. You're telling them, well, you're not worth anything because no money should be spent on you. So I just want to make it absolutely clear that this administration is looking after the affairs of everyone, including our cultural practitioners. Whichever area of culture you're involved in, I want you to be assured that this Minister of Culture and this government will be your champion. We are championing the cause of all. We are championing the cause of all professionals. Persons involved in culture are professionals as well. And so they should not be looked down on and should not be said, well, too much money is being spent on Culturama. We will not look down on our cultural practitioners. They deserve respect and they deserve money as well. And that is why we decided to increase the pay packages to our winners this year. You know, I just came from a meeting in Barbados, and sponsored by the OAS and the Barbados government. So I want to make it clear that I did not go to Barbados on the backs of the taxpayers of Nevis. I just attended a meeting in Barbados, and it was an OAS Ministers of Culture meeting. And at that meeting, it was persons there, ministers of cultures from Latin America and the Caribbean. And what they were trying to say at that meeting is that we need to show more respect to our cultural practitioners in the Caribbean and Latin America. Now, when I listen to some of the presentations from some of the ministers of culture from Central America, places like Colombia and Costa Rica and those places, the millions of dollars that they are spending on culture, what we are spending here in Nevis is a drop in the bucket. It's a drop in the bucket because they have realized how important culture is. And we have, I believe, in the region underestimated the importance of culture and the development of our practitioners. When I was at CARIFESTA, I spoke to the Minister of Culture in Antigua. Antigua, of course, will be hosting CARIFESTA in 2021. And I asked him, what is the budget you're looking at for hosting CARIFESTA in 2021? And you know what he said to me? The budget they are looking at is 20 million EC dollars. 20 million EC dollars to host CARIFESTA. And that does not include getting the delegations there, because the delegations have to get there on their own. They have to pay their own airfare. They have to pay their own accommodation. So the $20 million that the Antigua government will be spending to host CARIFESTA will be used to spruce up their venues for logistics and so on in Antigua and Barbuda. I'm sure that the Trinidad and Tobago government would have spent a lot more than 20 million EC dollars for the hosting of CARIFESTA this year. And we are talking about culture here. They have seen the importance of culture. And we in the Nevis Island administration and this Ministry of Culture, we have seen the importance of culture. And we have seen that it is important that we show respect to all those involved in culture. And that is why we will continue to spend money on culture and Culturama. So I want to congratulate once again all those winners. I want to publicly congratulate the Culturama committee, Mr. Antonio Abernathy Liburd, and the entire committee for doing a marvelous job. Congratulate all of the winners, all those who would have taken part. And I will continue to say, I know it is debatable, but I will continue to say that Culturama 45 was, in my estimation, from what I've seen, the best hosted on the island. And as I said, I know it's debatable. Some will say it's not. But I will maintain my stance that I believe it was the best. And I believe a lot of people would agree with me and have that opinion as well. Well, of course, everybody would have their own opinion. But once again, congratulations. And of course, we were very delighted that we were able to host the prize giving and the closing ceremony on Friday, the 13th of September. That's a mouthful. But with that out of the way, we have two guests this evening. We have, first of all, we have a guest who is actually from one of my departments. And I want to especially welcome him to the microphones of One Radio. He's no stranger to the microphones of the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. And I know he can handle himself when he gets in front of a microphone. And so I want him to introduce himself. And he's here to speak about a particular activity that is going to be taking place, that is going to be coming up very shortly. And I want to say good night to my first guest and let him introduce himself.
Good night to you, Mr. Minister, and good night to our listening audience and also those that are viewing via Facebook. My task here is very simple. Like, of course, persons, at least at home, would know I'm the Deputy Director in charge of sports in your ministry. And I'm here to talk about tape ball, our annual tape ball cricket competition. It's the second season. Last year, it was our inaugural launch of the tape ball cricket from the sports department, and it went off so well. We decided to do it again and to make it an annual staple on the calendar for the department. So the tape ball competition will kick off this Sunday, the 29th of September. We actually have an increase in teams. Well, I must confess, we had to stop it there because we had additional teams, but additional teams would mean that we would have to carry the tournament longer, and we do not want to hog the park, so to speak. So we want to leave it for other activities. So we try to make it short and sweet, but this year we have added one extra team from last year. Last year we had 7 teams, this year we have 8 teams. So our new team this year is Easterns from the Zion area. They showed an interest the last year, so we decided to contact them this year again, and they were still interested, so we said we will just draft them in. Actually, the 8 teams are All-Stars, SDA Jets, the Seventh-day Adventist Jets, Highlights, Empire, Rollins, GT United, Calypso, and Easterns, our new team. Empire being the defending champion. Eric?
Could you repeat that? Please repeat that. Who said are the defending champions?
Empires, Hanley's Road Empires, your
much.
team.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's funny enough.
And I can tell you that we're going to be coming back bouncing again this year.
Well, I would hope so. I would hope so, Eric. The funny thing about it, Empires, I think they were in 3rd position at the end of the preliminary round last year.
So they came from 3rd to winning.
And All Stars, unfortunately, who didn't lose a game in the preliminary session, lost to Empires in the finals, which was very unfortunate because that's the first game they would have lost in the tournament itself. But
I actually am seeing the other guests in the studio not looking very happy.
Well, we leave that for him. He'll tell you about about that part another time. But what I could say, Eric, our sponsor. Let me just put a little plug for our sponsor, Development Bank. Our corporate sponsor would have been on board last year, and judging from the reaction and the response from the league last year, we would have approached them again this year for sponsorship, but for an increase in sponsorship. And our good manager at the department at the bank there would have not even hesitated, said yes, I think we should have that, and we increased our sponsorship 50% over last year. I would hold to say how much, but they took care of us this year, Eric, and we're very happy and grateful that Development Bank on board again for this year's league. And we have little minor sponsors in between, which we would have sent out letters because, you know, we want everybody to be a part and parcel of the league. It's going to be exciting.
Just before you go on, I just want to add my bit in saying thank you to the sponsors. And I really, every opportunity I get, I would have high commendation and high praise for the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis. They have been tremendous in terms of sponsorship. They are fantastic corporate sponsor, corporate citizen. And I want to say kudos to the manager there,
Miss Pemberton.
Miss Pemberton, you and your staff, you are doing a fabulous job, and you all work with us so well, and I want to thank you so very much. And you all are doing an outstanding job in sponsoring. You know, sometimes I keep wondering, I mean, if you all make enough money with all the sponsorship that you give, but I mean, they hardly ever hesitate, and I want to say kudos. And thank you very much to Ms. Pemberton at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis, at the Nevis, manager of the Nevis branch, for the fabulous work that the bank is doing in terms of being involved in assisting the communities, assisting the departments, and assisting us in everything, in sports, in entertainment, in everything practically. And they're really doing an outstanding job. So kudos to you, Ms. Pemberton, and the entire team, and the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis on a whole.
Okay, Eric, of course, the no praise is too high for the bank, and we wish them well in their future endeavors. The league will run, Eric, for about 5 weeks, providing there aren't any interruption in terms of the weather. And we are hoping that by the 3rd of November that our league should finish. We should have the finals on Sunday, the 3rd of November, providing that, you know, we don't have any major interruptions, so to speak. So we are looking at 5 weeks running, short and sweet, 2 games per night. Playing days are Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. From 5:30 until, there are 2 games per night. So we didn't want to stretch it out, so we tried to put 2 games per night so we could finish and get out of the park. Short and sweet, and of course you come back next year, God's Spare Life, with another set of cricket. Hopefully, Eric, we can have a female or 2 female teams included in next year's league. We wanted to include them this year, but we had some difficulties getting the ladies together to form a team. But we're hoping that they will get their act together, and next year we would include the ladies, because if you would realize, some of the teams have 1 or 2 female playing for them. So there are ladies there interested in playing tape ball cricket. So we're hoping that we would have those 2 teams in next year, Eric. I think that's all for now.
It's not all yet. Is there an admission fee to the park? And would all of the games be played at the ETW Park?
Yes, all the games will be played at the ETW Park. I know last year we had promised the villa, because of the, you know, the close-knit in the villa seemed to be more of a, you know, family. But unfortunately, circumstances beyond our control, we couldn't use the villa this year, so we had to move back to ETW Park. Admission, the committee had decided for the villa we would have charged $2, but I don't know if we'll still continue with that, seeing that we're in the ETW Park.
Because last year it was free, right?
Well, last year it was free, and registration is still $50. We didn't want to increase it because we just want persons to have fun. We don't want to burden anybody, because as soon as you start carrying up the price, then they're going to want to know, well, if the prize money, overall prize money, is going to increase.
By the way, did you say what the prize money is?
No.
Are you not going to mention it tonight?
What I could tell you, last year, our first runner got $1,000 trophy for them, and the revolving trophy. And the second prize, I think, got $750, third $350, and I think that was somewhere around
I
there.
think it is safe for you to say that it's not going to be any less.
No, definitely. Definitely, it wouldn't be any less, Eric. And the teams, I think it's good where it is.
Yes.
But
and bearing in mind they're only paying $50 for registration.
exactly, and
Very
we haven't
small
increased.
fee.
We haven't
Token.
increased. We very much so. That's a token because we want teams to be involved. We know people. First thing people are going to say things kind of hard and way. So we try to make it affordable for everyone because sports should be affordable for everyone, and everyone should have a chance to play in sports. We shouldn't have an issue of not being able to register because we don't have any money, although we know that they do have money. But, we choose what and where to spend money on. So, but we have kept the price, the registration minimal, and we can have everyone involved in and cricket. What I would say, Eric, what I am hoping for again is for the young persons to get more involved. Last year, of course, we had a lot of young person, and I was very much impressed with, especially with New Orleans. New Orleans had, I think if they had 11 on the field, probably 8 or 9 on the, or in the teens, I must say. So they had a very young team, and that is what we are focused on, Eric, to find an area where they can channel their energy into. Sports, we know, because when we were small, all we did was to play sports.
Precisely.
And nothing else. So what we want to bring back is to have the young persons have something to channel the energy into. And because after you've played cricket, you probably run up and down and
you're tired.
you feel tired.
You just go home and sleep.
You go home and
Yes.
sleep. So, it's an avenue where they could channel the energy into, and of course, have fun at the same time. Winning or losing, sometimes it do matters, but at the same time, the having fun is for me, I think it's important too. And then the camaraderie and the friendship they would develop over the period of time playing against one another, because I believe everybody should know everybody there. So sometimes, even though you don't know a person, you might probably even make friends. And so we try to encourage such thing. Good behavior, that was something exhibited last year. We didn't have, and I hope we continue to have that, Eric, among, because it's more male than female. And we are hoping that camaraderie would continue among the teams, win, lose, or draw. And that is what we're trying to foster among the youths and other persons here in Nevis, Eric. Especially, that is why we try to put on these various sporting activities to get everybody involved, because Nevis is small and everybody should, behave good to each other.
And I have to say, which I've done on many occasions, I have to say kudos to the Department of Sports for organizing this tournament. And the department has organized a number of tournaments over the past, at least the short time that I'm in government. The Department of Sports has been extremely busy organizing cricket and other sporting disciplines, other competitions. And I must say kudos, because I attended quite a number of the games last year. And I must say the games were very exciting. You had some pretty good crowds in the park sometimes. And I believe these kind of tournaments, like the tape ball tournament, these are ways of getting the communities out. Because, of course, you have 8 teams taking part here from different parts of the island. And persons should be coming out to support the players from their respective communities, their respective areas. And we really want, almost every time I speak at the park, I say I want us to get back to the days when the ETW park is filled to capacity and bursting at its seams. When I was growing up, when there was cricket in the park, I mean, you could hardly fit a pin in ETW Park. But nowadays, our cricket has it has lost interest some way along the line, and we are trying our utmost, especially from the Department of Sports standpoint, to bring it back. And so I want to give kudos to the Department of Sports for organizing this tournament. And I really want to encourage persons to come out. The games are normally very exciting and a good way to come out and interact with people, to mingle, to mix and mingle. And as you rightly said, a lot of the younger people are getting a chance to be exposed and so on. We still believe we have a lot of raw talent with regards to cricket on the island of Nevis. And we want us to be able to put players back on the West Indies team again. We want that day to come. And so I believe that these kind of tournaments could only augur well for the development of the sport and for the development of our young people in the area of cricket. Cricket, of course, is very dear to us in Nevis, and cricket has taken us all over the world. And we have been known internationally because of cricket. And we want that day to come again. Maybe we can have persons from the island of Nevis back on the West Indies team. Now, Brian, before you go, what have your department been doing in terms of trying to get persons out to the games and so on?
Well, what we have done, other than we have put, of course, ad on Vaughan, so the ad is presently running, and I hope it would attract a lot of persons. We have also our Facebook page. We have posted the flyer on the Facebook page, and of course, WhatsApp is the up thing, so on the in thing. So we try and send it to all over. Everybody would send a WhatsApp to their friend. The friend would have a friend, and you see, it will spread all over. So we are hoping that we'll have a bigger crowd than last year, and the games, as I said, would be exciting. And the champions on Sunday will be playing. So the defending champions, I should say, Empire, will be playing highlights in the second match come Sunday. The first match, SDA Jets came third last year. All Stars came second, sorry. Empire came first.
Look like you want somebody in the studio to feel good,
So we have both the defending champions and the runner-up playing on Sunday. SDA Jets, they were third last year, and they play All-Stars in the first match. But first, Eric, I must tell persons about the opening ceremony at 5 p.m. We're hoping to have the opening ceremony before the game. The Development Bank sponsored tape ball competition. The opening will be at 5, and we'll have brief ceremonies, brief remarks, sorry, and then we'll go right into the doubleheader. SDA Jets versus All Stars, and the defending champions highlights versus Empire. The defending champions, Empires, I should say, not highlights. Empires versus Highlights International. So that would be the matches for weekend come Sunday once there's no interruption in terms of inclement weather. So I encourage everyone, Eric, to come on out. I know you will be there.
Yes.
Our guest will be there. He will be trying to encourage his team. So Marcellus Lee inviting everyone out on Sunday at 5 p.m. to the Development Bank sponsored tape ball competition. It will be exciting, Eric. It promises to be exciting.
And I really want to say, let me say this as well, that as the Minister of Sports, I am supporting all of the teams.
Very much so.
All of the teams as the Minister of Sports. But I have a soft spot for one in particular. Well, I have to because I'm the president of the Empire Sports Club. But I'm supporting all of the teams. And may the best team win. I want to congratulate the Department of Sports once again. I want to encourage persons to come out and support all of the teams, support good cricket. I wish all of the teams well. I wish the tournament well. And once again, congratulations to the Department of Sports, and thank you very much for coming and sharing this information with me. As a matter of fact, I did have some information here that I intended to share, but I am very delighted that you, as the Deputy Director, came and shared this information. So thank you very much, and all the very best with the tournament.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much. So that was our first guest for tonight, Mr. Brian Dow. He's the Deputy Director at the Department of Sports, and he was talking about the Department of Sports Development Bank Tape Ball Cricket Tournament that will be taking place starting this coming Sunday at the ETW Park. I don't know if it's probably a coincidence, but I have another guest, and the other guest also have the initials of BD. The first guest was Brian Dow, and the second guest is Brian Dyer. So the Bryans are here tonight in their numbers. So I want to specially welcome my second guest for tonight, Mr. Brian Dyer. Good night to you, sir.
Good night to you, Honorable Eric Giveling, and good night to the listening and viewing audience of On Radio and the guests of for the On The Mark show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dyer, and I want to thank you for gracing us with your presence. Mr. Dyer, of course, once persons hear your voice, I guess they probably know why you're here. We are in the heart of the very, very extremely active hurricane season. And I don't know if you have made an appearance on The Mark lately, but I'm happy that you're here this evening as a guest to share with us, give us some information with regards natural disasters, and of course tonight we are focusing specifically on storms and hurricanes, tropical storms and hurricanes, because I don't know what's going on these days, but it seems as though that they have gone absolutely wild. Now, maybe you can remind us, 'cause I'm sure you have a lot of information to share with us this evening. Maybe you can just remind us about what the prediction for the season is for 2019, and whether or not that prediction is proving correct based on the number of storms that we have seen so far.
All right, good evening again. The National Hurricane Center had a review of their earlier prediction in August, and they have increased the prognosis of more storms occurring, because the El Nino phenomenon that created a lull in the first half of the season has now neutralized or is now disintegrated. So they expect now, or they predicted, up to 17 named storms.
17?
Yes.
What was the first prediction?
The first prediction was 15 named storms.
So they have now gone up by two.
By two, yes. Of that 15, 8 will be predicted to become hurricanes, and of the 8, 4 will be major hurricanes. However, they have now increased it to 17, and we have already seen one major hurricane in Dorian that inflicted a devastating blow to the Abaco and Grand Bahama Islands in the Bahamas. So we are now looking at Lorenzo. It is predicted to become another major hurricane as well, but based on its current track, it should be over open waters, and we're happy that it remained over open waters. So we continue to monitor the Atlantic.
Now, I just spoke about Dorian a while ago. When Dorian affected the Bahamas, as you said, devastating blow, and devastating is an understatement. I don't know if we could find anything in the dictionary to describe what Dorian did to Grand Bahama and Abaco Islands. Dorian stalled over the Bahamas for practically 2 days, and it practically wiped out those islands. For a hurricane of that magnitude, packing wind gusts of 185 miles per hour at times, a hurricane of that magnitude to stall over those islands for 2 days, is that unprecedented? Is that normal for a storm to stall for 2 days?
It is not normal, but because of the atmospheric conditions at the time, as we say in investigation, all the ducks were in a row, and it created an environment where the storm just stalled, and it was not good for the islands of the Bahamas. It would not be good for any country, but because of their altitude or lack thereof above sea level, the impact was significant. So we had 23-foot swells, and some reports indicated that the highest point on the island was 14 feet above sea level. So it created something of, it was hard to describe the impact.
Precisely. I don't
Yeah.
think we could find anything in the dictionary to describe what it did to those islands.
Yeah, it was something that, Maria and Omar created history in the Caribbean, but Dorian surpassed those two storms with regard to one, deaths, and also
Destruction.
the destruction. Yes.
I don't think we've ever seen anything in the Caribbean of this magnitude in terms of the destruction, because when Irma and Maria passed, when we heard of the destruction in Barbuda and in Dominica and so on, in St. Thomas and St. Martin, we thought it was bad. But when you look at the kind of images, when you look at the videos that came out of the Bahamas, I mean, this was nothing compared to what took place there. And I asked you about whether or not it's unprecedented what we saw in terms of that Dorian stalling there. Now, we are also seeing something else for this hurricane season, where you're seeing the storms are forming a day apart, this proliferation. Do you normally see that as well, where they're forming in such quick succession?
It is the norm in the peak of the hurricane season to see a number of tropical waves emerging off the African coast. And because we are in the peak, the Atlantic is at its warmest point. So that's enough energy for the storms to develop, and develop rapidly as well. That's something we have seen in the recent past. The rapid development of storms, within 24 hours, they are jumping from category 1 to category 4 and 5. That's something unprecedented when you look back over the years in monitoring hurricanes.
And of course, there are a lot of things as to why people are hazarding, as to why this is happening. One of the things we've been hearing about is climate change. Some people don't believe in climate change, but in terms of scientific evidence, what is the real reason why we're seeing so many storms? The numbers have increased dramatically. The intensity has increased dramatically as well. What is really fueling this?
Well, I'm a firm believer in the climate change argument. Climate change and climate variability. We have seen a number of issues to solidify the argument. For instance, the temperature has increased significantly from the time we started collecting temperatures in the late or early 1800s, 1840 to 1860. 2017 was the warmest year on record. Each month from January to December was a half degree or a full degree warmer than each month. So that was significant. From that warm year, we had Irma Maria developing along with the others, because there were almost 4 major hurricanes in 2017. Now we had a lull for the first half of the season. We are in the second half of the season, and we have had 2 major hurricanes. Well, when you compare the first major hurricane to Dorian, then the first one was a piece of cake, really. So, again, our warm ocean temperatures, they reduce in the upper winds, the reduction in the strength of the upper winds in the atmosphere are creating an environment for storm development. So that's something we have to continue to monitor and be prepared in the event that one of these storms pass our way.
And I guess what you're saying there in terms of what is causing all of these storms, the intensity and so on, things don't seem to be getting any better. So it sounds as if that we are in for a rough couple of years ahead of us, where the hurricane season is concerned.
Well, it's troubling. We have a number of issues around the world that is impacting the weather conditions. We have the rapid deterioration of the Amazon jungle, and we have some planting of trees in the Sahara Desert. So we have one reduction one place, and then we have more an encouragement of planting to supply the African continent with more food. So that is changing the weather patterns, because we have more carbon dioxide or oxygen generating one way and then more carbon dioxide generating another. So the impact is affecting our weather conditions, and it's something that we have to get accustomed to. One of the things we would have to look at is our building codes. Presently, we honor the OECS building codes, and we are designed for Category 3 hurricanes. Unfortunately, Category 3 is not the norm these days. We have to build for Category 5. So we'll have to revisit our building codes and encourage persons to be prepared as far as practicable with your disaster plans and general preparedness.
Well, folks, if you're just joining us, you're in tune to the On the Mark program on this beautiful Wednesday evening. It's the 25th day of September 2019, and I had one guest earlier who would have left, Mr. Brian Dow. He was talking about the tape ball cricket competition, the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis tape ball cricket competition starting this coming Sunday. And of course, we have with us right now, we have Mr. Brian Dyer. He is the head of the Disaster Management Department. And of course, we are in the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season for 2019. So it's very, very timely and opportune for him to be here this evening. Of course, we know that we have been seeing some major systems passing us, and thank God they have been passing us and not affecting us too badly. Of course, we'd have gotten a lot of rain from the passage of Karen, but it's very, very opportune that Mr. Dyer is here tonight. We're discussing the hurricane season. And just in case you want to call in and ask Mr. Dyer a question at any time, you can feel free to do so. 869-469-1616 or 1700. So we are talking the 2019 Atlantic hurricane season tonight. And as I said, if there's any question that is burning you about this hurricane season, anything you want to know in terms of preparedness, and you want to call in and ask a question, if you want to call in and give a comment, anything that you want to get clarified, you can feel free to do so. We have the expert here with us tonight. Now, Mr. Dyer, I know you, as I said, I know you have a wealth of information where hurricanes and storms are concerned. But tell us though, when the hurricane season is getting close, what does the Disaster Preparedness Office do? What do you do to prepare for the hurricane season?
Okay, the hurricane season and the disaster management. The hurricane season is only one aspect of our preparedness mechanism. We have recognized and adopted the CDM practice, comprehensive disaster management. Comprehensive meaning we look at all hazards and how it could affect all our people and how we can get all our people prepared to face all these hazards. So the year starts for us, we start with the earthquake awareness, and then each month we have adopted a practice to highlight one hazard per month. The month of June is when we ramp up because of the start of the hurricane season, we have designated June Hurricane Month. So all our public awareness messaging is specific to hurricane preparedness. Even though the hurricane season is spread over 6 months or 5 months of the year, we do continue the hurricane messaging right down to November. However, for June, it is given special attention. The other months, we look at the other issues that come with hurricane: storm surge, tornadoes, excessive heat, etc., flooding, that kind of thing. But for us, hurricane preparedness, we look at getting our volunteers trained or retrained. We look at the shelter preparations, and not only preparations, but we do inspections and ensure that any unserviceability is fixed prior to the start of hurricane season. Then once the list is finalized with all the corrective actions, that list is published. We also have to look at the volunteers who would man these shelters. Every year the list changes with regards to our volunteers. Some persons would retire, some person would have migrated, some person would have expressed an interest not to continue. So it's a cycle, you know, we have to get our volunteers and the shelter structure in place, because we never know whether it will be an earthquake, a fire, a hurricane, etc. that would impact us. So it's important that we have a core set of shelters in a state of readiness that can be occupied by the general public. And once we have the shelters and our volunteers, now we look at revising our disaster plan and the plans for the community centers. This year we were fortunate to have draft plans developed by our partners, the University of Northern Colorado, and we will be testing these plans for the community centers and health centers this year, thanks to our partners in the US. We partner with several US universities annually, starting in January with the University of Virginia, then for the summer months, University of Northern Colorado and University of Chicago in Illinois. Next year, we are hoping to have the University of Northern, one of the Eastern Bloc university. It eluded me just now, but I'll mention the event once I can recall the name of it. But we have started the initial discussions, and that will be formed up before the end of the year, so we can start the process of, you know, accommodation and the programming for next year for that university.
There's one thing in particular that I specifically like about what you guys are doing at disaster preparedness in terms of those educational campaigns that you run on a monthly basis. You're getting the schools involved, you're getting the churches involved, you're getting persons from the communities involved, and I really have to say I really like that approach. Now, do you think that persons in Nevis are taking these educational sessions seriously enough, bearing in mind how serious these, especially when we're into the hurricane season, especially now we're into the hurricane season, we're getting some very intense hurricanes. They're coming very fast. Do you think that the people of Nevis are keeping up to speed? They are taking the information, they are being serious enough about these storms that could be looming out there?
I think they are taking heed. One of the things that we have done based on our marketing campaign, our public awareness campaign, we started to change the mindset. That is the aim of disaster management, to change the mindset of our general population, because persons see only hurricane based on the experience with Hugo and the other hurricanes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we have been entertaining the idea of having one hazard being highlighted per month.
Yes.
And we started with the schools, because once you get the school children involved, they would get their parents involved, get their sisters and brothers and persons in the community in some small way. So we partnered with the Ministry of Education and had for our first year in 2017 working with the schools. We again utilized the schools in 2018. For 2019 we have moved a step further, and now we are entertaining with the churches. 2020 we are looking to entertain the business community. So one by one, or step by step, we are involving the entire.
It's an all-inclusive, comprehensive approach.
Yes.
Fabulous.
What we have done is to partner with we have partners from the University of Chicago, Illinois, University of Northern Colorado. In 2018, when they visited in summer 2018, they conducted a survey within our communities. And that survey was to determine the impact of our public awareness campaign that we started in 2017. And they came back in 2019 and presented the results. So based on the information collected, we have seen that most of our population, 70%, indicated that the public awareness messaging has reached them. They're aware of what disaster management is, the hazards that we're talking about. So we are seeing some traction. We don't want to give up. So we partnered with the churches for this year. And next year we have the businesses. So with the businesses, we also want to include the government offices as well, because we have persons who would from time to time participate in some of our emergency drills.
Yes.
So we want to concretize the information being disseminated through the businesses and government offices, so we can have a holistic approach with regards to ensuring that we build resilience on the island of Nevis.
Fabulous. Now, I know that the office has been doing quite a lot, and they would have been getting some assistance from overseas and so on. Now, we're talking about increased intensity of hurricanes, increasing numbers and so on. How equipped is the disaster management office itself in terms of handling these kind of situations if they come our way?
Okay, the facilities we have at Long Point were constructed or designed by the naval engineers.
Yes.
Right, from a corps from the U.S. military, and the buildings were designed to withstand Category 5 hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that is true or not, I wouldn't want to be there
debate, right?
Yes, I wouldn't want to debate that.
Right.
But the facility were constructed to withstand a Category 5 hurricane or a major earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
So, to answer your question, yes, the facility should be strong enough.
And apart from the facility being strong enough, how well equipped is the facility?
Okay, we have over the years increased the equipment at the office incrementally. And this year, we have seen a significant increase. We've increased the number of computers, and we have now a video wall where you can display information and have more than one information being displayed, so you can have critical decision making at a timely manner. We have increased also the furniture, so we could now house the Cabinet of Ministers as the executive group for disaster management. We can house also the critical agencies. We have received electronic whiteboard. We have also a BIGAN satellite system that we can, in the event losing all communications, we can use satellite technology to send faxes, to receive phone calls and text messaging. And we also have some vehicles on island that were donated by the government and people of Japan. We have equipment to assist with the road cleanup and to do the damage assessments, etc. So we have done well over the years to, within the constraints of our financial budgetary system, we have reached out to a number of our partners internationally and across the region, and we have benefited significantly with regards to equipment.
Okay, as you spoke about road cleanup a while ago, I know that your department collaborates with a lot of the other departments in the government, and we have seen recently from some of the storms, especially from Karen, some dramatic flooding in a lot of the islands. What has been done in terms of clearing our waterways, clearing our drains and so on, to in case we get those kind of rainfall that we've been seeing in the other islands, that we don't get a similar situation with regards to flooding on Nevis?
Well, we have done our work with regards to mitigating flooding on the Nevis. We are working closely with the Ministry of Communications, Public Works. The road team have scheduled regular maintenance of our waterways and drains, culverts, etc. So with that regular maintenance, the flooding issues have abated somewhat. In the event we have excessive rainfall and we have more debris, then it's a cycle, they will return to these areas. We can also call on our volunteers. We have community emergency response team persons who would assist in cleanup efforts. We have also worked with the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, the Nevis Tourism Authority, and the Ministry of Tourism to do cleanups to ensure that our beaches are clean, our waterways, the debris in these waterways, the plastics, etc., are cleaned. We have regular cleanup from our volunteers in communities. So it's an ongoing process. We also work along with the Environmental Health and the Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority, because once it's collected, it has to be placed somewhere. We also partner with the Charleston Secondary School in their recycling program, and we do our best in ensuring that whatever is collected is properly disposed of. Not only disposed of, but we also want persons to be aware that once you litter, there's a cycle, and it's a domino effect. You litter, it affects not only the environment, but it encourages rodents and vectors to spread diseases, and then persons could get sick. So it's a complete cycle.
Precisely.
If debris gets into the sea, it destroys marine life.
Yes.
And for persons who love marine, the food products from marine, from the marine life, we are strong advocates to keep our beaches clean.
Of course.
Keep our waterways clean.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that persons get involved in the cleanup effort and do proper disposing of the garbage.
Mm-hmm. And I know. Some years ago, you all had done some training in terms of the CERT teams. Are they still there as well? Can they still be mobilized? Are they still active?
Some persons are still active.
Mm-hmm.
We have lost a significant number of persons. They are not active.
Any particular reason?
Well, some reasons, persons now have second jobs. Some persons now have children, so the family life aspect of it. Some persons, we have lost some through going off to universities. Some persons would return to the island. Some persons, even though they're out, will still send an encouraging note. So it's an ongoing cycle.
So maybe it's time to retrain some new persons then.
Yes, it's an ongoing effort. Every year we try to ensure that we arrange some refresher training for our SORT members, whether it's fire safety or first aid and CPR. Or this year we introduced with the partnership with the Red Cross an advanced CPR program. So persons not at the standard of an EMT, but they can do intravenous with your IVs, etc., etc.
Okay.
And they look at back injuries in more detail than a regular person who could conduct first aid.
No, Brian. As we listen to all of the news reports, we look at all the news reports and so on, when hurricane is passing through any of these islands in the region or anywhere, they're always talking about the shelters. I could recall the other day when the storm was supposed to hit Puerto Rico. They said there were large numbers of shelters that were open. In the Bahamas, some shelters were open and in the end were not safe. Do you have at hand the list of shelters on the island of the Nevis? We are hoping that for this hurricane season and the others to come that they may not have to be used. But I'm sure persons who are listening might want to know what are the hurricane shelters that we have in each of the parishes, that just in case they have to be used, persons can know where to go and that sort of thing. So I'm sure persons in the various parishes would want to know, well, what are the shelters in my parish and that sort of thing, just, as I said, just in case. We are hopeful that they would not have to be used at any time. But I'm sure persons who are listening might be interested in finding out what are the shelters in their respective areas.
Okay, on the island of Nevis, we have a total of 24 shelters that can accommodate approximately 1,800 persons. However, every year, once we inspect these facilities, we would make a determination whether this one will be used this year or not, based on the amount of deterioration in the facility, and if we can get the deterioration rectified, and also the shelter management teams. If we don't have the support in the community to man a particular shelter, that shelter is removed for that year.
Okay.
Right? So for this year, we will be in the St. Paul's Parish, Parish of St. Paul, Charlestown. We'll be using the pavilion at the E.T. Willett Park and the Anglican Church Hall. We will not be using the Girl Guides this year. Okay. In the St. Thomas Parish, we'll be utilizing the Jessop's Community Center and the Cotton Ground Community Center. We will not be using the Barnesgate Center. We have lost our shelter management team at the Barnesgate Center. In the parish of St. James, we'll be utilizing the Franklin Brown Community Center, Fountain Community Center, Beulah Seventh-day Adventist Church, Butler's Community Center, and Manning Seventh-day Adventist Church. In the parish of St. George, we'll be utilizing the Zion Amos Chapel, the Hickman's Community Center, the Charles Walters Community Center, and the Ebenezer Church of God. In the parish of St. John, we'll be utilizing the Pond Hill Community Center, the Anglican Church at Fig Tree, Maisie Bartlett Community Center in Brown Hill, Prospect Community Center, the Alberta Payne Community Center at Bath, and the Church Ground Sports Complex. Again, we have our shelter team in place. If the shelter team or persons volunteering to assist the team for some reason withdraw their services, then we will have to reduce the number of shelters per parish.
And when you're doing the inspection, who does the inspection and what are the inspectors looking for?
The inspection team is comprised of an engineer from the Public Works Department or the Physical Planning Department. We have utilized the Physical Planning Department engineer, as that individual is a long-standing member of the inspection team. So he has intimate knowledge of the shelters. The Public Works, because they are stretched with the workload, that person is not readily available. So we will make arrangement with the physical planning and have that engineer join the team. We also have a member from the Environmental Health Department to look at the water facilities, the toilets, kitchen, etc., and drainage, and an individual from the disaster management.
And you would have done some work on some of these shelters previously as well?
Yes, in 2010, through funding from the Japan Embassy and the government and people of Japan, we were able to renovate 10 community centers, and those centers receive hurricane shutters. We increased the water capacity at a number of these shelters. The Alberta Payne Community Center was totally refurbished. It received not only hurricane shutters, but all the windows were changed. We relaid the entire roof. We placed the name of our dear friend Alberta on the building. We added water tanks to that facility. We upgraded the tiling, toilet facilities, kitchen facilities, You know, you got a 100% upgrade.
With that funding that you would have gotten, though, in no way you could have gotten some generators, so at least you can use at the shelters, in just in case. But of course, if there's a terrible storm, the power will be out. There wasn't any way you could have gotten some generators as well to assist?
We looked at generators, but the amount of money that was issued by that one particular project, the generators could not be accommodated at that time. We are hoping, we submitted another project proposal, and we are hoping to receive some 8 generators. We have not received them yet, but hopefully for the 2020 hurricane season, we should have those 8 generators in place at our major hurricane shelters.
Now, when a system is passing, a hurricane is passing, and there's some disruption to a hurricane shelter, what is there in place? For example, as I said, I know there, for example, in the Bahamas, a lot of the shelters were rendered not effective in the end. So if you have a problem, for example, you have an issue at one of the shelters, I am assuming that there's a process whereby you choose which buildings can be designated as shelters, right? So for example, suppose you have a shelter and the roof for that shelter goes. What is in place?
Well, on the island of Nevis, we were privileged to have 2 shelters that were built specifically as emergency shelters, and these shelters have concrete roofs.
Okay.
We have added the facility at Bath with another concrete roof. So we have identified these 3 facilities as our long-term facilities. If, for instance, we are impacted and we utilize all 24 because of the strength of the storm, if some of the other shelters lose their roof or are destroyed, we will have to find, well, after impact, we will have to find a way of transporting those persons to the other shelters. However, in the event that we have to mobilize while the storm is in action or impacting us, we will utilize the period when the eye is over you, the most calm area,
Yes.
and to try and do as much rescue as possible, as practicable.
Yes.
So those persons will be taken to this facility with the concrete roof and would have to wait out until after the aftermath. Then we look at the long-term program of housing persons and restoring them to life as best as practicable.
Just before we continue, I just want to remind our listeners that you're in tune to the Eastern Caribbean Spa House, Vaughan Radio 860 on your AM dial, www.vaughanradio.com. You're listening to the On The Mark program. I'm your host, Eric Evelyn, sitting in for the regular host, Honorable Mark Brantley, tonight. It's a beautiful Wednesday evening here in Queen City, Nevis. It's the 25th day of September, and we are very much into the heart of the hurricane season, and we are so privileged and honored to have with us tonight here on The Mark Mr. Brian Dyer from the Disaster Management Department. He's the head of that department, and he's imparting some very important information to us this evening. We cannot take the hurricane season lightly at all, and so we are so happy to have him tonight. As I would have mentioned earlier, if there's any question you would like to call in and ask Mr. Dyer, anything you would like to have clarified, please don't be afraid to call. Our numbers are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Now, Mr. Dyer, would you say that with all of what you're saying, the disaster management department very well equipped, our shelters very well equipped, we have our teams together, are you saying that we are pretty much prepared to some extent in the event of a system hitting us?
I would like to say yes. We are about 7 out of 10 with regards to our preparatory actions. There are still some issues we are working on that would not stop us from performing as we should in the event of an impact, even though we are 7 out of 10, 70%. So we continue to do our best in the circumstance. We still have some challenges with some of our volunteers. As indicated, some of our volunteers have withdrawn their services. So we depend on a new pool of persons, and we continue the appeal. Our subcommittees, we have 11 subcommittees that help manage the disaster response and recovery process. Our subcommittees, some of those subcommittees do not meet as required by the news disaster plan, and that too affects the management process and the recovery process if we are impacted. So we continue to make appeals to the subcommittees and the subcommittee chairs that they should get their teams together and meet. We have had meetings from the medical and health subcommittee. They are our partners, and they meet every year, twice a year, or as required based on the situation. We have a good relationship also with the utilities and transport. This subcommittee is spearheaded by Dr. Stapleton. So we have a good relationship with that subcommittee. The other subcommittees that have not met, we are two out of 11, so that's a very poor grade. So we continue to appeal to our subcommittees and to ensure that they would assume their responsibility based on their role in the disaster management process.
But I'm assuming that the subcommittees should be meeting at the beginning of the hurricane season. We are now in September.
Yes, it's a problem, and our counterparts in St. Kitts, they went a step further and met with the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister demanded that the subcommittees meet. So we are having regular meetings on the island of St. Kitts with our subcommittees. So something similar would have to be done on Nevis, because it's appalling for 11 subcommittees and only 2 would have done any action for the year. And we are in the peak of hurricane season.
Very much so.
Yes.
And with what we are seeing now, we cannot relax at all. We must be on our P's and Q's.
Yes.
Because, I mean, as I said, these systems are forming ever so fast, ever so quickly, one behind the other. And we never can tell. Of course, we have been spared over these last few years. But we never can tell when one is going to decide, well, it's your turn, St. Kitts and Nevis. We're hoping that will never happen. But no, Brian, when we listen sometime to the news and we look at the news, and when a hurricane is threatening, when a storm is threatening, there's some countries where they're saying there's going to be mandatory evacuation and people must get out of certain areas. I've never heard of that happening in these islands. But if there's a storm threatening, a major system threatening, and you allow way of certain persons who are in certain houses that you know would be threatened, and you ask them to leave and they decide, well, I'm not leaving, can you go and take them out by force? Because of, they don't want to leave, but maybe in the height of the system, when it would be dangerous for persons to go out and rescue them, it may be a problem. Is there any way you can just go in and say, well, listen, you have to leave and we're going to take you out?
We could, if it comes to that, but we usually make an appeal to persons. Some persons don't always heed the appeal. We would send a friendly face, maybe someone from the Ministry of Health who they are accustomed to seeing. We have had the example where the former premier went along with the fire department team, house to house, encouraging persons to move. Some persons heeded the call, some persons did not. When the heat of the action, those persons who did not move started calling the emergency center requesting assistance to move, but at that time it was too late, so they had to bear the brunt of the situation. What I think should be done is that probably one of your legislations should look at mandatory evacuation. We have another issue here on Nevis where there's no facility for persons who are mentally challenged.
Yes.
So every year there's an argument between the Ministry of Health and the Royal St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force, because we have persons on the streets who whose family are reluctant to take them in, and we have to find a place for them. Yes, we could put them in prison, but that's not the most appropriate thing. We have to put them in regular shelters. With the security issue here on Nevis, where we are limited with regards to police resources, while we should have police station at each shelter, we have to do a roving security mechanism where the shelters are visited probably every half an hour, every hour, where we have placed the mentally challenged persons. That facility is visited probably twice every half an hour to ensure that order is kept in that facility. But again, that's something that we have put forward every year to the Nevis Administration Cabinet that they should look at. We have to have a facility where we can house, not only house the mentally challenged, but provide the staff fully trained to man this facility. So whenever we are impacted, we can have these persons properly treated. But it's a gap that in our disaster management structure.
Fantastic. Now, Brian, if a storm, a hurricane is threatening, it's coming straight at us, what is the first thing that your department is going to do?
Well, for us, there's a process looking at the hurricane watch, which 36 hours before the storm, 1 and 24 hours before the storm. So there's a specific process outlined in our disaster plan where we get into action. We would make several announcements on the radios. We would get our shelter team in place, ensure that the shelter operation is up and running. We usually put a stock of food in each shelter to accommodate persons to last probably up to 3 days. And then we would ensure that the EOC is manned whenever either the Prime Minister or the Premier will make the call that the Emergency Operations Center must be manned. Then we mobilize and have the facility open. We do a call out with all the persons who should be in the EOC. It is made up of permanent secretaries, heads of departments, head of the subcommittees, etc. Should be in the EOC. Some of our volunteers are as well accommodated in the EOC to assist with the running of the EOC. The disaster management staff is not the only staff in the EOC. We are not in charge of the EOC. We have an EOC director who works along with the disaster management staff. We have an executive group, we have the EOC, and we have the agencies, the utilities, the Ministry of Health, Public Works, Police, Fire. We have specific role and functions for these individuals at the EOC. Then we work with the Ministry of Health to ensure that persons in the communities who are in need of assistance, those persons are transported to the emergency shelters first. Even though for some persons, for instance, in 2017, we had to open the shelter earlier than usual to accommodate these persons and to ensure their family members are with them and that the person is as comfortable as far as practicable. And we have to look at the medication for that individual and have it stocked in that particular shelter. There is a registration process for each shelter. Each individual has to go through the registration process. So we would know the age of that individual, the dietary needs, medical needs, etc., etc. And that information is fed into the EOC. That information is processed with the subcommittee. And we work along with the Ministry of Health to preposition medications as far as practicable in these areas. We have to also do press releases, public information to not only the general public, but there are regional meetings with our counterparts, CDMA and donor agencies. There, there's also those meetings are done at 1 p.m. on a daily basis.
By
Pre-impact,
video conferencing, I'm assuming.
video conferencing, or teleconferencing. These meetings are held 1 p.m. every day, whether pre-impact and post-impact.
Okay.
So we have to get our assessment teams. We not only have to look at the impact, but we have to look at the recovery process. So again, it requires the minds of the persons in authority to be at the EOC, because after the storm hits, we have to look at getting the country up and running as far as practicable and as fast as possible. So it is not only looking at the impact of it, we have to start looking at the recovery process very early as well.
Fabulous. And after a storm would have passed, what are the steps? We have someone on the line. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Evelyn.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, thank you. I know you might not be able to pick up the voice, but also good evening, Mr. Dyer.
You sound like Mr. Warner.
Good evening.
Good night, Rafa. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
My deepest
Hey,
sympathy
listen,
to you.
A couple of quick questions.
Okay, sure.
I would like to ask Mr. Dyer what sort of communication he has in place for in case of a disaster from the shelters elsewhere, whether it's a handheld radio or whatever.
All right, good question and good night, my friend.
Hey, what's it?
Yeah, at the community centers, we have a base radio, VHF radio, in one community center in each parish.
Right.
So we have one base radio station at the Anglican Church Hall in Charlestown, or St. Paul's Parish. We have a radio in the Barnesville Community Center, even though that center will not be utilized for this hurricane season. There's a radio
Right.
in the Barnesville Community Center. There's one at the Franklin Brown Community Center in St. James, and there's one at the Charles Walters Community Center in
But do you have
Road.
more radio operations that they are the personnel who are in charge of these? They might be out of the building at the time. How do you contact them?
Well, we have trained persons in each community to man these radios. If the shelter is operational, then the shelter team would be the one providing updates from the shelters, keeping the EOC abreast
Right.
of the number of persons in the shelters and also their needs. So we can
Okay.
have the supplies prepositioned or a new stock to replenish what
Yeah,
was
and then
depleted.
when I was there in my days, and when in I think it's Hugo, just after Hugo, myself and Donald Daniel went around there in my backhoe, and I mean, we shouldn't be waiting for anyone to ask for their their
Assistance.
own personal, observation towards Nevis and cleaning the main driveway around the island. I have done that many a time, and I didn't get a call from nobody. Another thing, we like to let them know that if there's any loose wire or anything hanging, please don't either touch or walk on them. And we should not wait for someone to tell us, move. We should move
Yes,
as a
but
responsible citizen.
yes, but there's a procedure after impact. You know, the assessment teams will have to go first before the all clear is given for everyone to be on the streets.
Right.
So we have specific persons or specific teams that would go out and work along with the police and the utilities
Right.
to ensure that the electrical wires and the communication wires are not cut,
Right.
and also to clear whatever debris on the streets or in the drains to ensure that we can have free flow of traffic as soon as
Right.
practicable after the storm has passed.
Mhm.
We in the absence of our VHF radio system, sorry, we have an HF radio that we can speak to other countries around the region,
Right.
and we also have a satellite big and terminal that we
Right.
can send text, fax message, and make phone calls. So in the event that we have catastrophic failure of our communication systems, we should be able to have messages sent out from the EOC.
And then-
We also partner with the service providers of Flow and Digicel. They have
Right.
indicated that they also have satellite phones that
And then to
can
back
be
up all
of
that, you
service.
have you have the Eastern Caribbean Powerhouse.
Yes,
Always rough.
we
That never
always
go
have
down.
our partner, the
Right. It
manager
never
and
go
staff
down.
of the powerhouse.
Right. Well, it's a good thing that you are enlightening everybody about this hurricane. This hurricane is no joke to play.
Not at all.
It's no joke. You got to take it serious. You got to take it serious. And I'm glad you came on to highlight a couple of things. And I do hope that people put them into practice when they watch or whatever
Warning.
pertaining to hurricane. All right?
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Rafa. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for calling.
Thank
How is the
you.
family?
Everybody's fine, Everybody's fine. I just mourning the loss of
Yes.
Bugger.
My deepest sympathy to you and the family.
All right,
Condolences.
thank you.
And give everyone my love.
I will, man.
Thank you very much. Take care. Have a
Thank-
good night.
Bye-bye.
And
good night.
a point that was highlighted a while ago in terms of when you spoke about there's a process coming out after the storm. A lot of persons like to come up before the all clear is given. Everybody just want to be driving around to see what's taking place.
We wouldn't advocate for that.
Right.
When we give the initial clearance, that initial clearance are for the utility companies,
Right.
the Nevlex, the Flows, the Digicel, to go around and to examine the lines and to ensure that they have a proper assessment of
Right.
what the damage is, so they can start working. We also use that window to do our damage assessment, so we can provide an initial report to our funding agencies who would want to help. That initial report also goes to the Caribbean Disaster Management Emergency Agency, who has a regional response mechanism in place in the event any of its 18 participating states are impacted. So it's important during the first 8 hours after impact that only critical agencies are seen on the road, because we have to get critical information to pass to not only the regional partners but through the embassies as well, so persons could start looking at what aid is required. Some persons, as soon as they hear a country is impacted, they want to send clothes. Clothes is not always the need at
Right.
the time. So it's important that proper assessment is done. We want persons to contact the office. I have a list of the phone numbers. I'll provide them before we leave. It's important that you get your information into the disaster management so we can start quantifying what the damage is. Then the second assessment, we look at the needs of the individuals in the homes that are damaged. Then a third assessment looks at the damage, loss, and the post-damage PDNA, post-disaster needs assessment. This PDNA report has an economic component that would help the News Administration or the Federal Cabinet to have an idea what was damaged, what it takes to get back to where we were before or better than where we were before, and also to have an idea how much money will be needed to be borrowed if and when approached by the funding agencies. So it's important that we get all these assessments done without any interference, so we can now make an approach to the funding agencies and to any assistance required, special assistance required, so they can provide this without any delay. But when we have persons removing police barriers, taking photos, driving around, it takes away from the real task at hand. And we always appeal to persons, they should not be on the road.
And maybe there should be some legislation in place as well.
Yes, I have
as-
advocated for legislation that persons seen in the period when they're not should be either fined or put in prison.
because they don't know their own danger. There could be some
Exactly.
some live wire somewhere, and
We have had several complaints from the police. Persons are moving police barricades and proceeding into areas. Some persons have gotten injured going into these areas. So, for your own good and safety, remain in your community, remain in your home, do assessments on your home, look for your neighbors. Your assessment should be forwarded to the disaster management or to Van Radio to be fed to disaster management, because we have volunteers manning the phones. Probably this is a good time that I should, go through the list of phone
yes,
numbers.
because our time is running away very
Yeah.
quickly.
All right, so let me see if I can find these numbers. Our regular number though is 469-1423 or 469-7903. But during emergencies, we operate an additional 6 lines. And let me see if I can find these numbers.
Well, you're in tune to the Eastern Caribbean Spa House. We're on the mark. We just have another 6 minutes to go. And we have our guest here, Mr. Brian Dyer, the head of the Disaster Management Department. And he has been giving us some very, very important information tonight with regards to how we should operate during the approach of a storm, if a storm is hitting us, and of course after as well. And so we're delighted to have him here tonight, and he's going to be sharing a little bit more information with regard to some telephone numbers, of course, you can get into contact with. Because the good thing about it is that during the passage of a storm, most of the times our cell phones are up and working.
Yes, I have the numbers. So in the event of emergency, the disaster management operate 8 phone lines plus the fax machine. So the numbers for the phone lines: 469-0351. Second number, 469-4030. Third number, 469-1922. Fourth, 469-5449. Fifth, 469-0995. Sixth, 469-0696. And again, our regular numbers: 469-7903, 469-1423. And in the event that we have catastrophic failure of all these lines, we can use our sat phone. The number is 772-640-053. And our fax number is 469-5407.
And I believe what you should also do is that maybe you should give them the website address so persons can actually go on and get additional information from your website. I know you have a very good website as well.
Yes, the website ndmd.kn, and we have a mobile app as well with the same designation, NDMD, Nevis Disaster Management Department. So the first letter in each word. That makes up the website and our Facebook page and Twitter pages.
Fabulous. Time is running out. Any other quick information you want to leave with us just before you go?
I just want to remind persons that we are in the peak of the hurricane season, and you should have had your development plans ready and in place. Continue to stock up on your dry foods. You never know when we will be placed in an emergency situation. The soils around us are saturated from
Yes.
rainfall, so be mindful that we can have flash floods at any time. Or motorists, please take care when you're driving. Remember, we have pedestrians. And for persons, continue to clean your ravines and guts to ensure that we can have the free flow of water in the event we have increased rainfall. Again, our numbers at the office: 469-1423, 469-7903. And we continue the appeal for our volunteers. We need the support of our volunteers. Without volunteers, our disaster management system, our framework is no good. Volunteers are the backbone of our service that we provide. We continue our public awareness campaign. Next month is important for us. On the 13th of October is the International Day for Disaster Reduction. We have a week of activities. We start with the church service at the Wesley Church in Charlestown. Then we have the staff development on the Monday, the 14th. On the Tuesday, we have a semi-open day where we invite persons to the disaster management facility to look at the setup of the Emergency Operations Center and a display of the equipment and learn about the ICS, Incident Command Systems, how we manage disasters. We'll be providing that information on Tuesday. Wednesday, we have a symposium where we will bring in the churches who will be providing information on the hazard that they were championing.
Yes.
And we have a special speaker to join that group. On the Friday, we have a fun day with our staff on Syncits. And the Saturday, the 19th, we will be at NEPAC for a program to showcase the talents of our volunteers as we raise funds to take a team to St. Martin in December for the CIDIMA 11th conference.
Fantastic. Well, Mr. Dyer, I want to specially congratulate you for doing a fantastic job as the director of the disaster management department. I think you've been outstanding, especially in terms of getting information out. And when anything is threatening, you're sending messages out every now and again. You're sending out the weather report every morning. I think you have been really doing an outstanding job as the director there. And I want to congratulate you and your team for doing such a great job. And I want to thank you as well for being here tonight and sharing all of this very relevant information, very timely information as we're in the heart of the hurricane season. So I want to thank you so very much for being here. And I trust and hope that you won't have to activate anything for the rest of the season. We hope that we'll continue to be in the clear, and we just trust in God. So thank you very much, and I want to thank all of you for listening to On The Mark tonight. Thanks for joining us. Remember to listen again tomorrow, the rebroadcast at 1 p.m. Thank you very much. God